Hey everyone, and welcome to Freckles and Blondie, the podcast where we talk about the show Lost and occasionally fight about Jack and Sawyer. I'm Randy.
And I'm Tiffany.
And today we're talking about Season 1, Episode 18, Numbers.
Yay!
Yeah, it's a good episode.
Just so excited.
This episode originally aired on March 2nd, 2005. It was written by Brent Fletcher and David Fury. Fletcher was a freelance writer who worked on Lost during its first season. And we've previously mentioned David Fury, whose body of work is very, very long. Fury previously wrote Walkabout, Solitary, and Special. And this episode was directed by Daniel Attias, and much like David Fury, his body of work is also extremely long. And it includes Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
This is just going to become the Lost and Buffy the Vampire Slayer crossover podcast.
I know. I guess we shouldn't really be surprised anymore about the amount of crossovers there are.
No, it's really interesting. And it kind of makes sense. I feel like they're both really groundbreaking shows for the time that they were on.
Yes.
They both kind of dabble with like this sort of sci-fi fantasy thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see why they would have a lot of the same creators.
Yeah, me too. So this is a great episode.
This is a great episode. I really enjoyed it. I always enjoy Hurley episodes because moment to moment, they're just so fun.
Yeah, he's great. The actor who plays him, Jorge Garcia, has such great timing in everything he does.
Yes, he really does. He's so funny.
Yeah.
He has great chemistry with everybody. He's one of those actors.
Yeah, that's so true.
There's no scene that he doesn't make better, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree.
I don't think that this was one of my, favorite episodes. Like, when we finished season 1, and I think back on my favorite season 1 episodes, I don't think this will be in, the top 5. But it's just really fun.
Yeah. I think it might be in my top 5.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, I like how it is very fun, but it's also very unsettling. Like, it has this weird kind of undercurrent the whole time you're watching it. Maybe that's just me, but...
No, I think you're right. And I think that part of my problem is just being numb to these revelations because I've seen this so many times. And the first time you see this is like groundbreaking, crazy, weird stuff.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, oh, well, here are the numbers. Let's start that storyline. Because this is a storyline. Like, if you don't know what's coming, we're going to do a lot with the numbers. It's a huge thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could definitely be sort of underwhelmed because I am desensitized to the numbers. But it is really cool. It's really weird and really, I do love the numbers stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I like this beginning with it. I think maybe it's just the stuff on the island that is not as gripping for me. It's not bad or anything. It's not one of my favorites. It's not that kind of heavy emotional stuff that I love.
Okay. That's interesting. Should we get into it then?
Yeah. Let's just do the thing.
Alrighty. Previously on Lost, Locke and Boone discovered the hatch, and Sayid had a conversation with the French woman Rousseau and stole some of her maps. We open on the beach, where Hurley is helping to build the new raft. He's having a hard time understanding what exactly Jin wants him to do until Michael steps in and translates. Jack walks over and asks about the progress of the new raft. Michael assures him that it's going well and that he has people standing guard at all times. He then mentions that since the chances of them finding a passing ship are fairly small, it would be helpful if they had something to send out a distress call. Jack replies that even if Sayid could make something like that, they don't have anything to power it with, but Hurley reminds them that Rousseau has batteries.
Didn't they have batteries from a laptop at one point?
I think Saeed used that for the second radio he made.
Oh, so it's just like, I guess it's dead now?
Yeah, I guess so. Because I think I guess he doesn't know it's Locke, but Locke destroyed it, right? So it was unsalvageable.
I find it hard to believe there was one laptop on that plane.
Yeah, maybe they should go ask Sawyer again to go through his stash and see what he could find. We cut to Saeed, who's flatly refusing to tell Jack and Hurley where they can find Rousseau. Jack tells him he doesn't have to come and suggests that maybe the maps Saeed took are actually pointing to Rousseau's location. Saeed insists that he still doesn't know what the maps mean, and that Rousseau wasn't exactly in her right mind. He says that if the map is pointing to her location, she resides somewhere labeled Dark Territory in French. While Saeed and Jack continue to argue, Hurley looks through Rousseau's papers. He comes across one with the numbers 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42 written over and over.
Saeed is just super freaked out in this scene, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not having any of this, which is understandable.
I know. At first I was just like, oh, come on, Saeed. Like, you couldn't find Rousseau if you wanted to. And then I was like, he's just scared. He doesn't want to go back there. It's too freaky.
I mean, he was tortured there, and...
He was tortured there. He, like, heard all the whispering in the jungle there.
Yeah.
Everything bad happened over there. So... probably much smarter to stay here.
Right, which is kind of, like, if I was Jack, I would be looking at someone like Saeed, who clearly doesn't want anything to do with Rousseau anymore, and I'd be like, wait a minute, if Saeed is this afraid, maybe you guys should think about this before I just go charging off.
Yeah, maybe see if there's another battery.
Yeah. In a flashback, Hurley is sitting on the couch at home, flipping through the channels. He lives with his mom, who asked Hurley why he's sitting at home on a Saturday night, instead of going out and trying to find himself a girlfriend. Suddenly, Hurley stops on a channel where they are reading the winning lottery numbers. Those numbers are 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. Hurley stands up, holding a lottery ticket with those same numbers. He looks shocked and then passes out, and we go to the title scene.
Oh, so great.
It's so great.
This moment is great because this whole time it's been a joke that Hurley owes Walt so much money, and like now we're like, oh, wait a second.
Right. It just seems like so impossible that it could be true. And then it is true.
It's so great. And this scene is just, not a lot happens. You know, he wins the lottery. It's just him sitting on a couch. But I feel like it paints such a very specific picture of Hurley's life.
Yeah.
Like with his mom yelling at him in the background, and he's wearing like his fast food uniform.
Right.
Like we know exactly what his life is just by watching this little scene.
Yeah. That's so true. It is really well done. It only lasts like a minute or two, but
yeah, it's really quick, but we recognize our Hurley from the island in this guy, and his life is just, well, is about to get crazy.
Yeah.
But other than that, it seems like pretty normal. Right.
Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite introductions we get for a character on Lost.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but it's a really good one.
Yeah, it is.
Nobody comes to mind as like having a better introduction than that.
Right. On the beach, Saeed wakes up to find Hurley staring at him.
He is so creepy.
So creepy. It's one of my least favorite ways to wake up, personally.
Does this happen to you often?
No. Just the fear of someone doing that to me sometimes keeps me awake at night. But
I do this to my husband sometimes. It really scares him.
Dude, that's awful.
I'm not even joking.
Oh my God.
No, I just look over at him and he's half asleep and he like freaks out.
That's scary.
Apparently.
Saeed's confused, and Hurley asks him more questions about Rousseau. He asks about the numbers he found, and Saeed tells him he thought they might have been coordinates for something. Saeed confirms that when he found Rousseau the first time, he followed a wire he found buried on the beach. When Saeed questions Hurley about the sudden interest in Rousseau, Hurley brushes it off and walks away, but not before stealing one of Rousseau's maps.
Very crafty.
Yeah. But yeah, I like you said earlier, Hurley just has that actor has good chemistry with anyone in any scene, so I like this.
He has that perfect, awkward, bumbling delivery.
Yeah. Yeah. Hurley is standing outside his home, answering questions about the lottery winnings from several reporters. When asked how he chose the winning numbers, he vaguely says they just came to him. He introduces his mom, Carmen, his brother Diego and his family, and his grandfather Tito, who is 70 years old and has worked multiple jobs for most of his life. Hurley very sweetly says he wants to give his grandfather a permanent vacation, maybe buy his mom a house, and really focus on his family because he's put them through a lot lately. However, as he's talking, his grandfather appears to have a heart attack and falls to the ground. It's interesting.
Yeah. I feel like I didn't even notice in any of the past watchings, but that line, I put my family through a lot recently. This is what I'm going to do to make it up to them.
Yeah.
That really jumped out at me this time.
Yeah.
I was like, what did he do?
Right. Yeah, just the little hints we get about this line, and then when he's at the psychiatric hospital later, it's like they don't tell you the whole story. It's very intriguing.
They don't, and we get a little bit more about it later, but I still am confused.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure what caused any of these problems and how Hurley feels responsible.
Yeah, I don't even remember what we get on it later, so it'll be interesting to see.
There's a lot of things like he did something, and I don't feel like he did, but...
Yeah. He obviously feels very guilty about it, though.
Right. And I mean, I guess that's fine and natural that you would feel guilty about something that's not necessarily your fault. But yeah, it's just really strange.
Yeah. Maybe it's because he's Catholic. All that Catholic guilt.
Oh, that totally explains it.
You know, I just thought about that.
Aw, Hurley. Yeah, I mean, we definitely find out later that he was in a psychiatric unit, but not a lot of background into that.
Yeah.
That's just not this episode's deal.
Right. Which is fine.
It is fine, but what a significant little thing to drop on you that Hurley, he had some sort of mental instability going on.
And it just also, it's kind of brilliant the way they just drop that in, because just in the back of your mind when you're watching this episode and all these things are happening, you're like, well, maybe all of this really didn't happen the way Hurley remembers it, you know?
Right.
It just leaves that little thing of doubt in the back of your mind. Yes,
exactly. And I mean, Charlie, just beats that drum constantly.
Yeah,
ya loon?
I know, it's almost ridiculous how many times Charlie calls him crazy in this episode.
He calls him crazy so much, and any other time that wouldn't be a big deal, but because we have this really subtle nod to Hurley being in a psychiatric facility, it's a huge deal.
Yeah, it is.
But man, we just jumped the gun like crazy on this story.
Yeah. It's rolling. In the caves, Hurley is filling up water bottles when Charlie walks over. He says hi, and Hurley is immediately acting guilty. When Charlie asks him where he's going, Hurley reluctantly admits he's going to find some new areas to fish. Charlie offers to come with him, but Hurley forcibly declines, claiming he needs some time to be alone. He walks away, but not before his backpack opens to reveal several large bottles of water. Yeah, I love Hurley and Charlie scenes. They're my favorite.
Too.
Maybe that's why I like this episode so much, because it's just jam-packed with scenes between them.
It is, but these are not my favorite Charlie and Hurley scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I have some problems with them. I like this one, though. This one's fine.
Yeah.
Charlie's just really sweet and earnest, like he always is in this scene.
Mm-hmm. Claire is sitting on the beach when Locke approaches her. He says he's building something and could really use her help. She points out that she's 9 months pregnant and can barely walk, but Locke convinces her to come anyway. He helps her up, and we can all only hope that he's not about to teach Claire a lesson using some mystery paste he made in the jungle.
Yeah. I love this.
Yeah, it's nice.
I love that she's just sitting there and he just comes up to her and he's like, well, I don't see why you can't help. You have arms.
Yeah.
She needs to feel useful just like everybody else.
Yeah, and I feel like most other people, like she says later on, like if I was there, I wouldn't ask Claire to do anything.
Right.
Because she, she's about to have a baby, but Locke gives her exactly what she needs, so.
Yeah, I think it's really nice. It's just another example of Locke knowing what everybody needs.
Yep. He's just working through people.
No, it's crazy.
It really is.
I love him so much.
I know you do. Sayid approaches Jack in the caves, angry because he thinks Jack stole Rousseau's maps. He believes Jack used Hurley to do his dirty work, but it soon becomes clear that Jack has no idea what he's talking about. They ask Charlie if he's seen Hurley, and he confirms that he was going for a walk and acting a little crazy. Both Jack and Sayid realize Hurley is going after Rousseau.
So I have a theory about Jack.
Oh God. Go ahead.
Okay, so we established earlier that he is the, everyman character.
Mm-hmm.
I am starting to feel like he is the audience representative.
Jack, really?
Yeah. In the past few episodes and in this one, right now, I feel like he's kind of supposed to be our eyes and ears, and the other characters are just kind of revolving around him, and he's just this weird neutral party.
Okay.
That just occurred to me in this scene for some reason. I don't know what it was about this scene, but as I watched this episode, I was like, that is kind of what is happening.
Do you think that's something he's just doing in this episode?
No, because I think in the last few episodes, it's just been a lot of, what seems to be happening a lot in this season is people have, some sort of problem, and they go and they tell Jack about it, and he's their sounding board. And then they go off and continue with their storyline,
Mm-hmm.
And it's I feel like the only time he's really involved in the story and playing a major part has been in his episodes and Kate's episodes.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he's the leader. So yeah, I feel like it's important for them to have a somewhat sane sounding board, a person they can just go and I guess bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, because as this journey that they do to go find Hurley starts, I'm why is everybody doing this? Sayid, well, he knows the way and he needs to come. Charlie is really close with Hurley, so he needs to come. Why is Jack coming? Is he just there to bounce off of? What is Jack's purpose there?
Well, he's the leader.
But they don't need him. Sayid doesn't need him.
They don't need Charlie. It surprises me more that Charlie goes on this trip than Jack does.
Well, that doesn't surprise me because Charlie cares about Hurley. They seem close.
Yeah.
To me, this is just as if, if Claire was out in the jungle, Charlie would totally be on that as well.
I don't know. This it feels like a personal mission to Jack. Because I guess Michael's the one who asked him to, they needed something to put on the raft in order to send out a signal. And so I guess since Sayid was so reluctant Jack kind of took it on himself to...
But Saeed is going.
Right. But I mean, well, it was just supposed to be Saeed and Charlie off on their own. I feel like
I'm not saying there's any problem with Jack coming. I'm just like, I'm trying to figure out his role in like all of this. Like, so it just feels like he's us, kind of. He's kind of part of the audience to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Because we talked about before how I find him very relatable as a person and a character. So, yeah, the fact that he would kind of project what the audience is thinking or feeling, it makes sense.
Right. It's like, I'm not getting much about Jack, the character.
Right.
It's just, he's just kind of like filling this role of like the listener. And I mean, it makes sense for him to go on this just because Jack is protective of like everybody on the island. Uh-huh. So he would like want to make sure Hurley's okay and everything. But he doesn't ever say anything like that. We don't get any character moments from him.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like it's more implied. Like, this episode is so jam-packed, it would be hard to slip. Well, I guess it wouldn't be that hard, but it would be.
It wouldn't be that hard to drop a line or two, just like Charlie does. You know, like, I think Jack gets overlooked. I think that they can do more with him, and they're just like, well, let's throw Jack in there because he's the main guy. Like, you know?
Are you saying you want more scenes from Jack Shepherd? Is that what I'm hearing today?
I want more depth from the scenes that he's in.
Okay.
That's what I want. Sawyer can be in an episode for like 2 minutes and we will argue about it for like 20 years because he makes an impression. And I feel like they just use Jack as people's sounding board and like, I mean, I don't want to be repetitive, but you know what I mean.
I'm going to remind you of this when we're on Jack's like 7th episode and you're so sick of him.
Oh, I will be sick of him and I don't enjoy his episodes. I'm just saying. They could have done better in writing him and that could be part of my issues with his whole character.
That is understandable. Oh gosh. Okay.
Jack tangents.
Yeah.
God.
Like I said at the beginning, we're here to fight about Jack and Sawyer. So,
and there's not a lot of Sawyer in this episode, so
I
gotta fight about Jack.
Saeed is packing a bag to go after Hurley as Shannon watches. She asks when he'll be back, and he says hopefully before nightfall. Shannon is clearly worried, but Saeed assures her he'll be fine, and he runs to catch up with Jack and Charlie.
Their goodbye is so dang cute.
Yeah, I don't hate this scene. It's nice.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad this scene wasn't painful for you.
No, they're nice. I like them. Hurley is shown walking on the beach before we cut to a flashback.
Oh my gosh. That soundtrack is just incredible.
Yeah, it is.
That like walk on the beach, like that wide shot, and I don't know what's on his plane. It's some sort of rap, and
right.
It's great.
Right.
And then it's just like the best scene transition to him in that ridiculous yellow Hummer.
Yeah. And it seems so out of place at first.
It's so great.
Hurley's driving his mom in a new car and blasting some rap music. His mom asks him to turn it down and reminds Hurley that she doesn't like surprises. She wants to know where they're going. Hurley wants to do something nice for her, especially after all the bad things that have happened lately. His grandfather died. At the funeral, the priest got struck by lightning, and his brother moved back home after his wife left him. Hurley says they've had bad luck ever since he won the lottery and wonders if the money's cursed. His mom hits him and reminds him that Catholics don't believe in curses. They arrive at a mansion, and Hurley makes his mother put on a blindfold. He welcomes her to her new dream house, but she trips and breaks her ankle as she's taking off the blindfold. Unbelievably, the house catches on fire. Hurley goes to call 911, but then 2 police cars show up. The officers get out of the car, pull their guns, and arrest Hurley, all while his mother watches from the side. This scene is hilarious to me.
It is. It is so ridiculous.
It really is.
One absurdity after the other.
Mm-hmm. Also, I love the actress who plays Hurley's mom. She kind of steals most scenes that she's in.
Yeah, she is wonderful. Lillian Hurst.
Lillian Hurst. She's great. I love all of her scenes with Hurley.
Yeah, they have a great back and forth. It's that wonderful, like, tense love.
Yeah. On the beach, Hurley finds a wire buried in the sand, the same one Saeed previously found. He yells for the French chick, but unsurprisingly gets no response. I love that he did that. Only Hurley would have expected to get any kind of answer when he just yelled in the jungle.
Hey, French chick.
Yeah. Just as like a test.
Right? I feel so nervous for him, like, as he's doing this. Just imagining, like, all the booby traps that Rousseau has all over the place.
Yeah, this is super dangerous for 1,000 different reasons.
You must, like, realize that if Saeed got caught in the traps, there's a high chance you are too.
Right. And then, Rousseau's not exactly in her right mind. And what about the supposed others on the island? Like, there's so many things that could be happening.
Right. He's either very brave or very stupid.
Yeah. Hurley is meeting with his accountant, who's giving him updates on all his assets. All his stocks are doing well, but a sneaker factory he owned burned down and 8 people died. However, even with all this bad luck, Hurley has almost doubled his net worth in just a few months. Hurley continues to insist that the money is cursed. His accountant asks him where he got the winning numbers from, and a look of realization comes over Hurley's face. He says it's not the money that's cursed, it's the numbers. His accountant starts to insist that this is ridiculous when all of a sudden, a man falls from the upper floor of the building, passing by the window behind them.
The only time someone's death could be funny.
I know, like, this is awful, but it's so comical.
Oh, gosh. This has David Fury all over it.
It does! Oh, you're so right. I didn't even think about that.
I also love the little detail that Hurley owns the box company Locke works at.
Yeah. That's a great detail. There's so many interconnections between, all of the survivors from this crash now, back in their quote-unquote real lives. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's going to be more of a focus now to start connecting people in almost every episode.
Yeah. I love that stuff.
Me too. It's great world building.
Yeah, I feel like, speaking of world building, I feel like we do a lot of that in this episode. I guess we'll talk more about that at the end, but it feels like a lot of things are expanded in this episode.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. On the beach, Sawyer's reading time is being disturbed by Michael, who's rebuilding the raft. Walt and Michael point out that Sawyer could actually be of some use and help them, but Sawyer says he's watching out for arsonists. When one of the stacks of bamboo falls apart, Jin and Michael start yelling at each other. Sun and Kate are sitting nearby watching this scene. Sun doesn't think Jin will ever speak to her again, and Kate assures her that he just needs time. Sun wonders if Jin will go on the raft when it finally sets sail, and Kate doesn't know.
Okay, does Sawyer know that it was Walt who set fire to the raft?
Oh, I don't think so.
He says that so vindictively to Walt.
I didn't even notice that.
I mean, he couldn't possibly know, because if he did, he would not keep his mouth shut about that. Like, there's no reason he would keep that secret. But for him to say that to Walt, it's just so ironic and weird.
I didn't even pick up on that.
And Walt looks so scared.
Yeah, I just figured Sawyer's just a jerk to everyone, so this is just more of that.
Just move your dang chair, Sawyer. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's just Oh, Sawyer. Everything I could say about him has already been said, so.
Never have to speak about him again.
Yeah.
And poor son. It's really sad.
Yeah.
I can't imagine just sitting there watching your husband who's not speaking to you and wondering if he's going to leave.
Yeah, their whole situation is sad. I like how, we're still getting these nice quiet scenes between Kate and Son.
Yes.
It's like we're building up their friendship. It's nice.
Yeah, I wrote that too.
You did?
It makes me happy.
Yeah, me too.
They just have this kind of like quiet, they're like Charlie and Hurley, but much more subdued and less fun.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Just a little less fun, but still wonderful.
Yeah, and I didn't remember getting a lot of scenes between the two of them, so I like it a lot.
Kate gets overlooked a lot, I think, in the good things that she does. Like,
yeah,
she was so supportive of Charlie when Claire was gone, and he was feeling so overwhelmed and alone. And it was Kate who was like there for him. She's there for Son right now. She does that for people all the time. And I feel like everyone's always talking about how useless Kate is. And like,
yeah,
what are you talking about?
So true. You should point them to all of these scenes.
Kate is wonderful. God.
Yeah, she's underrated.
Sick of this. I'm so sick of the Kate hate.
We've had enough, okay?
Just done.
Yeah.
Oh, and I made a note of what Sawyer is reading in this scene.
Yeah, his book club.
Sawyer's book club. Book of the week is A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline L'Engle. I should know how to say that, but I can't.
I don't either.
Did you ever see the movie or read the book A Wrinkle in Time?
No, and I always meant to, and I never did.
I know, same here. But I was reading like a little synopsis of it for this, and holy moly, all the lost references that were coming out. I need to watch this movie. There's a new one coming out in like a year, apparently.
Yeah, I do know that, so.
I'll have to watch it. But it's a sci-fi novel, and it's about this like 13-year-old girl. And I mean, this is like super, super Cliff Notes. Cliff Notes of the Cliff Notes. But she has to travel through some sort of space-time continuum to rescue her father. And like she and the people she's with, they encounter like this large dark cloud called the Black Thing. And there's like apparently all these references to light and dark and good and evil. So got a lot of interesting lost references in all of those things.
That is interesting.
Some of which we aren't going to talk about until like season 5 and 6.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right.
Uh-huh.
Wow. That's crazy. I need to read that then.
So far, every book that Sawyer has read seems extremely relevant to the happenings. I've always wondered if they were like really significant, so I'm glad that we're like looking to find out.
Yeah, me too. I feel like they have to be. They have such direct references to what's going on in the show.
Oh yeah, like I have no doubt about it now, but I just never took the time to figure out what all these books were about.
Yeah, me either. The more you know.
Brought to you by Sawyer's Book Club.
Hurley is still following the wire throughout the jungle when he comes across a dead boar that got caught in a trap. He continues on until he hears a click. Saeed, Jack, and Charlie show up. Saeed tells Hurley not to move because he's standing on a pressure trigger that will release a swinging missile of sharp sticks. They tell Hurley they're going to find something to replace his weight, but Hurley insists he can make it in time because he's spry. Indeed he is, because he's able to jump out of the way just in time. Jack asks Hurley what he's doing out here, and he says he's just trying to find a battery. The group continues on with Saeed in the lead.
I'm getting a little tired of all the Hurley fat jokes.
Yeah, it seems unnecessary. And it seems like most of them come from Charlie, which is also unnecessary.
Yes! They're supposed to be, like, tight and...
Yeah.
I get that you might say something to someone you're feeling close with that you may not say to just anyone.
Right.
But they're not that close yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Annoying.
It is annoying, and I don't think they're going away very soon, but...
No. It just seems like Charlie wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it seems out of character for Charlie.
He's so nice.
I know.
Charming and lovely.
Yeah. I feel like they just give these lines to Dominic Monaghan because he's so funny, but...
Right. He can handle it. He can, like, drop them in such a way that it's not going to sound as offensive as maybe it should.
Exactly. But it's still not great.
Yeah. He is great in this scene, though. Dominic Monaghan. He's so funny.
Yeah. He is.
he does hysterical really well.
He does.
Hurley, what the bloody hell is wrong with you?
I know.
It's just so great.
Oh, I love him so much. In a flashback, Hurley is at the front desk of a psychiatric hospital. He's trying to find a Leonard or Lenny, but doesn't remember his last name. He says he just needs 5 minutes. A doctor comes over and recognizes Hurley. He takes him upstairs, saying he doesn't remember Hurley and Leonard being very close. The doctor leaves, and Hurley approaches Lenny, who's playing Connect 4 and muttering under his breath. Hurley sits down and says he has to know what the numbers mean. Suddenly, we hear that what Lenny is actually saying are the 6 numbers over and over again.
Dun dun.
Yeah, it's very freaky.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, we get this hint that, Hurley was obviously a former patient at this psychiatric hospital.
Right. Yeah, and he clearly wasn't here for like a weekend. The doctor
Right.
remembers him pretty well.
Right.
I do like Hurley's line here where he was like, leave the bulb for another time, man.
I was just going to say that. Just that whole thing happening in the background.
Yeah, it's great.
It is great. Coming back, Hurley asked Leonard where he got the numbers from, and if they're the reason he's in the psych ward. He says the numbers turned him into a jinx, but no one believes him. Leonard hasn't been paying attention, but when Hurley mentions he won the lottery with those numbers, he stops and looks horrified. Leonard tells Hurley he shouldn't have done that, and that he's opened the box. He yells that Hurley has to get far away from the numbers or it will never stop. Someone comes to take Leonard away, but not before he tells Hurley he heard the numbers from someone named Sam Toomey, and that they used to work together in Calgary, Australia. I think that's how you say that.
This is so fascinating because, like, if I see someone muttering like the way Leonard was, I feel like they can't say anything else. I was like so surprised when he just started talking to Hurley.
Yeah, it is very shocking.
It shows you that, like, he can have normal conversations, but he's so consumed by the numbers that they, like, overtake him.
Right.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, it is, because this whole time, like, Hurley's been the one who's been talking about jinxes and bad luck and the numbers. But then when you take this completely other person and bring them into it, someone who's obviously been repeating these numbers over and over again for who knows how long, like, it makes the whole situation so eerie to me.
Right. It just kind of zooms out and you're like, okay, this isn't even really about Hurley and his lottery.
Yeah.
It's so much bigger.
Also, I love Jorge Garcia in this scene. Like, there's one part where I think it's when Leonard looks up and he's like, you use those numbers to play the lottery? And Hurley with like a completely dead face, just like, yeah. Like, it's so, the timing on these like little moments I love them so much.
He's so great. I think part of the greatness in Hurley is there is no other character like him that I can think of, like on another show. Hurley is just Hurley.
Yeah, that's completely true. He's just his own special thing. Back in the jungle, Saeed finds the end of the wire which goes into the ground. Charlie calls everyone over to look at a very sketchy-looking rope bridge stretched across a ravine. Saeed says he never saw that bridge before, and they speculate that Rousseau's team could have helped her build the bridge, or possibly Ethan. Hurley walks right up to the, again, very unsafe-looking bridge, and despite the others' protests, starts to cross it. He goes slowly and makes it across. Charlie follows him and has almost made it to the other side when, unsurprisingly, the bridge breaks. He manages to save himself, and Jack tells them to stay put while he and Saeed find another way around. Hurley wants to keep going, but Charlie protests, saying Hurley's acting like a lunatic.
Okay, first of all, I refuse to believe that Rousseau dragged Saeed across this rickety bridge by herself. There's no way that happened.
No, I didn't even consider that. I always just thought that she found another way. Because, yeah, you're right. There is no way that happened.
No. So why do they need to cross this bridge?
That's a good question.
That clearly has never happened. Saeed clearly didn't take this bridge on his way out.
Right.
So there's no reason to take this bridge at all.
Yeah, I feel like Saeed and Jack were about to say, let's find another way around. But then Hurley just charged right across without, waiting to think at all.
Yeah.
So
I think Hurley is just reckless because he knows, okay, he doesn't know, but he's pretty sure that if he's cursed, the bad things happen to the people around him, not him.
Yeah.
So if he just goes, he'll be fine.
Yeah, that's a good explanation for why he does a lot of things in this episode that are fairly dangerous and reckless.
And he is not worried about himself at all.
Yeah.
But he's sure that that's part of the curse, is that he will always be fine. It's the people around him who will be hurt. So that could also explain why he doesn't want anybody to be with him and he won't let Charlie follow him.
Yeah, good point. He's just trying to protect everyone around him. That's so sad. It's such a crappy curse.
Yeah, it's not one of the good curses, for sure.
No, it's not. I don't know what I'm saying. The good curses.
That moment, though, when Charlie, yells at Hurley, I can't stand it.
Yeah, it's it hurts. It's kind of shocking.
It is, and Hurley looks really angry. There aren't a lot of times where you're going to see Hurley with, a rage face, but he looks really mad in that scene.
Yeah, it's because Charlie, again, calls him a lunatic.
Yeah.
And
it's just so rude. He tells him to shut up, listen to Jack, stay put, and stop acting like a lunatic. Again, nobody but Dominic Monaghan could have delivered this without us hating them.
Right. Exactly. I still love him, but in the back of my mind, I'm still this is maybe a little bit out of character for Charlie.
I think it's definitely out of character, and it's just not... This isn't the Charlie and Hurley relationship that I always think of when I think about them.
Yeah, me either. Yeah, in fact, when I was watching this episode, I kept expecting there to be other scenes between them, scenes that we get later on.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got these scenes where Charlie's yelling at him, calling him a lunatic the whole time, I don't remember any of this happening.
Right. You're waiting for this moment of connection because that's what you think of for Charlie and Hurley, but there's not really a lot of that in this episode.
Yeah.
And I wish there was.
Yeah, I do too. Oh, Charlie. Sometimes I think about the things he's going to do in later episodes and I get really sad. But I guess we'll get there when we get there.
Charlie is complicated.
Oh, Charlie. Anyway. In Australia, Hurley approaches a house that seems to be in the middle of nowhere. A woman answers the door, and when Hurley asks to speak to Sam, she says that she's his wife and he's been dead for 4 years. Inside the house, the two sit down, and Hurley asks Sam's wife, whose name is Martha, where Sam heard the numbers from. Leonard and Sam used to serve together in the U.S. Navy. One night, 16 years ago, Sam and Leonard were stationed together monitoring transmissions out of the Pacific when they heard a voice repeating the numbers over and over. A few days later, Sam was at a fair and he used the numbers to guess the number of beans in a jar. He guessed the exact right amount and won 50 grand. On the way home from the fair, Sam and his wife were in a car accident. She lost her leg, but Sam got away without a scratch. He then became obsessed with the numbers and kept a log of all the terrible things that happened to people around him. He even moved to the middle of nowhere to try to get it to stop. In the end, Martha tells Hurley Sam committed suicide. Hurley tells her that he used the numbers to win the lottery, and he thinks he's under the same curse. Martha insists that there's no curse, that bad things still would have happened even without the numbers. She tells Hurley, "You make your own luck," and that Hurley's just looking for excuses.
It's a meaty scene.
It is. I love this scene. It's one of my favorites in the episode.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know why, but I have such a specific memory the first time when I watched this particular scene. It just gave me goosebumps, the way she's just kind of laying out everything that happened to her. And when she lifts up her skirt and you see her prosthetic leg and she says her husband's killed himself, it's a lot of awful information to get in a few minutes.
It is. And then it's so startling that at the end of it, she says, "There's no curse."
Right.
Because you would think of anyone to be on Hurley's side, this woman would be.
Right. Exactly.
This is the beginning of a very long debate in Lost. This is fate versus free will.
Yeah, one of the main themes in the show that it'll go over it over and over again.
Yeah, I honestly can't think of any theme really that we hit harder than this one in the show overall.
Yeah, me either.
So that could be why this scene really sticks out to you, because it really opens the door to all that. And we've had little references before, but this is so direct. Mm-hmm. And this lady, she contradicts what I feel like we've been told all along. The argument so far has definitely been fate, all fate.
Right.
Because, we've gotten a lot of John Locke, and that is always going to be the fate side of the argument, and luck and curses and things like that. For her to just be nope, you make your own destiny.
Yeah, it's this whole other school of thought that's suddenly come into play.
Yes, exactly. But I'm totally with Hurley at this point. I'm okay, it could not be worse. I can't imagine. What more could happen to you and you not think that it was a curse?
True. I don't know what to think at this point. It feels again, maybe I remember this scene because, correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't had too many flashbacks where something in the outside world directly connects with something on the island. I don't know if that's true, but the way when she's talking about how they were listening to a transmission in the Pacific 16 years ago, it's okay, we know Rousseau has been on the island for 16 years. We later get, more details about that, but
as soon as you hear 16 years, you're wait, that's Rousseau.
Right, exactly. And then it's what kind of crazy connection is that was happening? They're in the middle of nowhere in Australia, and that has a direct connection with everything that's happening on this supposedly random island in the middle of nowhere. It's so crazy.
Yeah, you're right. There's kind of this feeling that this island is separate from the rest of the world in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
And this definitely brings them together in this really tangible way. Not only did they pick up that transmission, but they moved on. They went home, It was fine. They didn't get stuck on the island.
Exactly.
So, yeah, there are a lot of things in this scene that are even more significant than they seem right away.
Yeah, that's very true.
Is really, really fun.
Mm-hmm. I know. I feel this episode is a little hard to talk about without giving away too many spoilers, but
yeah, it's the beginning to a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I think that's why it's kind of exciting. It almost feels like I want to get to the meat of it, that's part of my, I don't even want to say I have an issue with this episode. I don't. It's just
yeah.
I'm okay.
Let's get on with it. Yeah. Right. Claire is helping Locke build whatever it is he's building. She guesses that it's some kind of trap. Locke asks her to pass him the glue, which he of course made himself. Claire thanks Locke for giving her something to do so she can stop trying to remember what happened when Ethan took her. She's able to remember bits and pieces, but nothing that makes sense. Locke says he might be able to help with this because he's good at putting things together.
Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice scene.
It is. It's kind of awkward. But it's like awkward in exactly the way you would expect a conversation between Claire and Locke to be awkward.
Right,
What do these two have in common?
Like, literally nothing.
Like, hardly anything, but they're just, they're being nice and they respect each other. It's swell.
Yeah, it's just funny to think that they spent all day together.
Right.
Building this thing.
It is funny. But like, man, if he hadn't said anything to her, she would have just sat alone all day. It's so sad to think.
I know, it is sad. Poor Claire.
Yeah. It's her birthday. I know. God.
Jack and Saeed are walking in the jungle when Saeed stops. He says he recognizes this place and that they're close. Suddenly, Jack trips a wire and a bomb appears to go off. Charlie and Hurley are shown, and Hurley looks very worried. This kind of comes out of nowhere, this explosion.
Yeah. Rousseau is like a mastermind.
Yeah, she is. She's very smart.
She is so smart and maybe a little paranoid, but...
I mean, yeah, understandable.
I think she's smart to abandon her place now that she knows it's compromised.
Yeah, and think about... I mean, I don't know how many places she's had over the years, but I imagine that wasn't easy to do. She had like a whole setup down there.
Yeah, that had to have been time consuming.
Yeah.
I mean, just gathering all those resources every time has to be time consuming.
Definitely.
Rousseau is at war. She is all by herself and she's at war with everybody else.
Yeah, and she's good at it.
She's very good at it.
Experienced.
She's lasted this long.
Yeah. We come back to Jack and Saeed, who are thankfully still alive. They're going through the remains of Rousseau's shelter. Apparently the bomb was some kind of security system. They don't find any batteries, and Saeed figures out that Rousseau knew that he would come back here one day with other people. She left her booby traps and moved on, and they don't know where. Hurley is trying to find Jack and Saeed as Charlie follows. Charlie's frustrated and he wants to know what's going on with Hurley, because he's pretty sure it has nothing to do with batteries. Hurley says everyone has their own personal stuff, but Charlie insists on an explanation as to why Hurley is acting so crazy. Hurley turns around and says, "I am not crazy." He starts to tell Charlie his story when they're interrupted by a gunshot. They both take off running. Hurley trips, and when he gets back up, he walks straight into Rousseau, who's holding a gun.
They are the only two characters who, when there's a gunshot, would just look at each other and be like, is someone shooting at us?
I know! Oh my god. For like an extended period of time too. For like 5 seconds. So like, wait, what?
Yeah, they have to hear another shot before they realize what's happening.
Yeah. I also love how it seems like they immediately lose each other. Like, 5 seconds and they're completely in opposite direction.
How did that happen?
I don't know. Wouldn't you run the same way?
You would think. That's a convenient way to get Hurley and Rousseau alone.
It was. Coming back, Hurley introduces himself to Rousseau, and he tells her that he knows Saeed. He pulls out her notes from his pocket and asks her what the numbers mean. She answers, "I don't know," and Hurley reaches his breaking point. He says he's usually happy to just go along with everything, but with all the crazy stuff happening on the island, he wants some freaking answers. Rousseau lowers her gun and explains that when she and her team were on their ship, they heard a voice repeating the numbers on a transmission. They changed course to investigate and crashed on the island. They eventually found a radio tower up by the Black Rock, where the transmission was coming from, and after her team died, Rousseau changed the transmission to her distress signal. Hurley asked if she ever figured out where the numbers got their power to bring bad stuff. She says the numbers brought her to the island, and she's since lost everything and everyone she cared about. So yeah, the numbers are cursed. Hurley is so relieved to have found someone finally agreeing with him, and he hugs Rousseau.
This is my favorite scene in the episode.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
Oh, I love it so much. Only Hurley could do this. Approach someone as badass as Rousseau, and within 5 minutes of meeting her is hugging her.
Yeah, that's so true. No other character could get to that point with Rousseau.
Yeah, not at all. And she opens up to him immediately.
Yeah.
Rousseau, who doesn't open up. Sayid worked really hard for that.
Right.
And she had him bound to a table. He was not a threat.
Yeah, and he even fixed her music box. But with Hurley, it's immediate. You could see this look on her come over her face when she's telling him what happened to her.
Because Hurley is just so genuine.
Yeah.
It's just so obvious. And I mean, when he has that little breakdown in front of her, he's just being so vulnerable and in the moment. And who wouldn't respond to that?
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like they both, it feels like there's this connection between them because, it's almost like an echo from Solitary when Rousseau was telling Sayid what happened to her, and Sayid was looking at her and she was like, "You think I'm crazy." And this whole episode, Charlie keeps calling Hurley a lunatic, and Hurley's like, "I'm not crazy." Mm-hmm. So I love that connection.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about Rousseau getting her own form of validation from this conversation.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that.
I know. Me too.
I was just so relieved Hurley was getting it. But that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
What a wonderful scene. It is pure perfection.
It really is. It's so good. Jack and Sayid are still searching through Rousseau's destroyed shelter. Sayid finds his mostly intact picture of Nadia when Charlie runs up. He tells them he and Hurley were being shot at, and then he lost Hurley when he was running away. They're about to leave to look for Hurley when he strolls up. He hands Jack a battery from his backpack and tells Sayid that Rousseau says hey, which I'm pretty sure she did not say.
It's so lovely, though. Hurley should be in charge of all diplomatic issues.
Yes. Yeah, he should.
He can be the island ambassador, just kind of deal with any other correspondence that needs to happen.
100%. The looks on everyone's faces when Hurley just casually strolls up and pulls out that battery like it's nothing is fantastic.
He knew what he was doing all along, guys.
Mm-hmm, yeah. He was just looking for the battery. That's it.
I don't know why you doubted him.
I know.
He handled that bridge like a champ.
That night on the beach, the group returns to camp, and Sayid hands Michael the battery with 0 explanations. In the jungle, Locke asks Claire if she's picked out a name for the baby. She says no, and admits she was going to give the baby up for adoption. She says it's her birthday today, and that she hasn't told anyone because it doesn't really matter since they're on a desert island. Locke says it's good luck if Claire and her baby's birthdays are close together. When Claire asks if he believes in luck, Locke replies, in true Locke fashion, that he believes in a lot of things. Locke finishes what he's been building, turns it over, and reveals that it's a cradle for Claire's baby. He tells her happy birthday, and she says thank you.
Aww.
Yeah, it's lovely.
It's a nice...
Yeah, it's a nice ending to their little side story.
Yeah, it's so sweet.
Yeah.
And Locke is so Locky.
Yeah, but it's good Locke, not crazy, untrustworthy Locke to me.
He's been mostly good Locke.
Yeah.
Most of the time. There hasn't been a lot of untrustworthy Locke. I mean, there was the weird incident with Boone, but
Right, and then there's the thing with Saeed.
Yeah.
But, yeah. It's just nice. I like it.
I do wish that when Claire tells him she was going to give the baby up for adoption, that they had kind of taken a moment to connect on that, because Locke was given up for adoption.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Like, that could have been, like, the thing that they connected over. You know?
Oh, that would have been a great conversation for them to have had.
And you know Locke would have had great insight for her about that.
Yeah. Oh, missed opportunity, guys.
It really is. But it's still a really nice, sweet scene.
Yeah, I agree.
And another little reference to Luck, even though Locke and Claire's storyline is not really dealing with the same things that Hurley's is, with the curse and all that, but, you know, just dropping in the stuff about believing in things and your birthdays being together, being good luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
We know what Team Locke's on, like, no doubt.
Oh, absolutely. He never wavers from that team.
No, I think he's the leader of that team.
Hurley is sitting by a fire when Charlie comes over to chat. He asks what Hurley was going to tell him earlier when they were interrupted by gunshots, and Hurley says he thinks the plane crash was his fault. He says bad things always happen when he's around. Charlie doesn't believe in bad luck, and he tells Hurley that he was in the bathroom snorting heroin when the plane was going down. Hurley doesn't say much, and Charlie encourages Hurley to share one of his own secrets. Hurley admits that back home, he's worth $156 million. Of course, Charlie doesn't believe this nonsense and seems upset that he bared his soul to Hurley and got nothing in return.
I mean, this is just kind of more of the same, where I'm just kind of frustrated with Charlie.
Yeah, it is more the same. And I'm like half frustrated with Charlie and half just finding Dominic Monaghan so funny.
Yeah. I mean, his performance is amazing, as always. But I don't want him to be Hurley's antagonist. I want him to be on Hurley's side.
Yeah, and it doesn't really seem like he's being Hurley's antagonist. It just seems like he's kind of being a little selfish here. I mean, he does reveal this big secret about him, but he's almost like so focused on himself that he can't even hear anything that Hurley is saying.
He doesn't take the time to listen to his whole story.
Exactly.
Just, like, immediately writes him off. And I feel like he is his antagonist the whole episode, because he's constantly just telling him that he's crazy and to stop doing what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And Hurley has to, like, overcome that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like his intentions are maybe a little bit better in this scene. Yeah. Because, you know, when Hurley says, I think it was my fault, the plane crash, and Charlie's like, you know, no way, that's crazy. But
yeah, I just want, like, more compassion from Charlie. Like, he would never treat Claire like this. He would never, like, laugh off her fears.
That's true. Yeah, it's a good thing Dominic Monaghan is so charming.
It really
Otherwise,
is.
It would make me very angry. In the last shot of the episode, the camera focuses in very slowly on the hatch, where the numbers 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42 are etched into the side. The episode ends on that crazy, crazy cliffhanger. And I have like 100 new questions that need to be answered now.
Right. Welcome to Lost.
Yeah, I guess.
It's a really nice way to end.
It's so good. It's so good. Especially right after that scene with Charlie and Hurley, which you kind of expect to be the last scene. Lost ends a lot of its episodes that way, where, you know, just kind of wrapping things up between a couple of the characters by a fire. You know what I mean? Like, we've done that so many times. And like things like kind of, like, I feel like calmed down now. I'm not so freaked out about everything that just happened. And then to just like turn it around the last 10 seconds with that last shot. Oh, it's so good. I love it so much.
It's very foreboding. I mean, Hurley and Rousseau have concluded that the numbers are cursed And now we see that the numbers are on the thing that Locke is so determined to get into.
Right.
I remember just thinking, I was so excited to find out what was in there. I was like, oh my god, it's going to be so bad. I can't wait.
Right? Like, the possibilities were endless. It just feels so much more significant now we know that those numbers are what brought Rousseau to the island in the first place.
Yeah. Which
you know?
is just so cool and so weird.
Yeah.
So do you think the numbers are cursed?
I don't know. I can't make up my mind at the end of this episode.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like completely split down the middle. I feel like there's good arguments for both sides.
Okay. What is the argument for them not being cursed? Because that one is harder for me to see.
I mean, I guess for me, like, I'm so much more skeptical about things like this. I don't really believe in fate. Like when Sam's wife Martha is talking about, bad things just happen to people. These things still would have happened without these numbers. That, to me, that's a much more rational explanation in my mind.
Oh,
so I don't know if I really have like a good argument, but to me, like, I understand that like perspective a little bit better.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, if we're talking about like my life, that's my argument. But in this world, on this island, it seems so clear to me that there is a curse and that there is fate and luck. And it seems like one of the most powerful things on this island, like Locke's miraculous healing, Walt's crazy luck, Hurley's crazy bad luck. Why not have these cursed numbers, Like,
I mean, yeah,
it fits
I guess.
into the world to me,
Yeah. I guess also just the fact that they're numbers. Like, it's not like a tangible, real physical thing.
Right.
Like, in my mind, I'm just like, of course, like, they're numbers. They can't do anything. Even though, like you said, I mean, with all the crazy things that have been happening on the island, it makes more sense that they would have some awful
and
curse.
not just on the island either. Like, to Hurley.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to Leonard and to Sam. Like, all three people who have interacted with the numbers feel the same way about them.
Right. Yeah. And the fact that they showed up on this island that Hurley has crash landed on. Yeah, maybe I do believe that they're cursed.
Well, I asked the Instagram peeps what they thought.
Okay. And
we have currently, the poll is still going on, but currently we have 72% of people who say that the numbers are cursed and 28% say they are not cursed.
Okay, so majority say they're cursed.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just the show makes all the evidence in the world for them being cursed. It doesn't make a strong case for them not being cursed. It's basically just that lady. I don't even remember her name, but she's Sam's wife.
Yeah, Martha. Mm-hmm.
Martha. She makes the case for it just basically being coincidence. But that's it. Like, nobody else really does.
Yeah.
Not at this point.
Yeah.
So that was like, we basically just discussed it. That was my big question. Was, do curses and luck and fate exist?
Right. And mine was, the question of fate and whether or not all of our choices have already been predetermined or if you make your own luck, like Martha says to Hurley.
Right.
So yeah, like we said earlier, that's such a fundamental theme throughout this whole show.
And it's been dropped in a little here and there so far, but it's a seed that is going to grow and grow and grow. And
yeah, we're going to get arguments for both sides of it.
Yeah, really strong, compelling ones for both sides.
Yeah.
Right now, I feel like it's very lopsided. I feel like it's very much in the yes, crazy stuff happens kind of domain. I don't feel like we've gotten a lot on the other. But at the same time, it's almost like you start off with the, of course, those things don't exist mentality. So they have to make the strong case that they could. Right.
Because I'm still, even when I'm watching the show now, a part of me is still like, no, of course the numbers aren't cursed. Of course, Walt can't make things move with his mind. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just still rebelling against it because it's so out there.
Yeah. Lost always kind of walks this weird tightrope between sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah.
And part of the struggle of the whole show, I think, is figuring out which house it's going to be in. And I mean, maybe that's part of the fun is that they mix those two.
Uh-huh.
Because at first, I feel like it's so sci-fi.
Yeah, me too.
This stuff like this, and like Claire with the psychic, and Walt being so lucky, things like that. That seems more like fantastical.
Yeah, definitely.
It's an interesting merging of like two very different genres, really.
Yeah, like genres that don't necessarily always merge so well together. So they did it really well in this show.
Yeah. I mean, to continue our Buffy crossover, one of the things people really hate in that show is there's a whole season where they kind of go sci-fi on you, and they deal with like the what are they called?
The Initiative.
Yes, the Initiative, and it's like suddenly we're dealing with this techie world, and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa! This is a show about magic and vampires and that kind of stuff, and so it just like didn't jive with people. So for Lost to blend those two things the way they do is really impressive.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
And I always feel like when they lose people, it's because they get a little too into one side. Like, they get really heavy in the sci-fi or really heavy in the fantasy, and, you know, not everybody likes all of it.
Yeah, that's so true. And I was thinking about that when I was watching this episode, because I feel like the thing with these numbers, they pop up a lot from now till the end of the show, but they never, like a lot of things on Lost, we never really get like a totally full explanation of, you know, what their deal is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've had so many conversations with people who, when they talk to me about why they stopped watching Lost, I'm like, well, what about those numbers? They never explained those numbers. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think different levels of explanation are going to satisfy different people at the same time.
Yeah. But I did, because I was looking into this. First of all, if you Google, like, the numbers in Lost, so many detailed articles come up about, there's so many fan theories and articles written about it. I was looking at one article which had like a separate article written about every single number from the 6 numbers.
My God.
Yeah, and I was just like, this is madness.
Wow.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. But one of the articles mentioned an interview that Damon Lindelof did in 2008, where he talks about the numbers. And here, I'll just read this quote from him, because I thought it was, the way he described it, I thought it was very interesting.
Cool.
So when the interviewer asked him about the numbers and, you know, what they meant, if they're ever going to get explained, he said, there are some questions that are very engaging and interesting. And then there are other questions that we have no interest whatsoever in answering. We call it the midi-chlorian debate, because at a certain point, explaining something mystical demystifies it. To try and have a character come and say, here's what the numbers mean, actually makes every usage of the numbers up to that point less interesting. And then he goes on to say, you can actually watch Star Wars now, and when Obi-Wan talks about the Force to Luke for the first time, it loses its luster because the Force has been explained, sort of as like biological agents that are in your bloodstream. So you go, oh, I liked Obi-Wan's version a lot better. Which in the case of our show is the numbers are bad luck, and they keep popping up in Hurley's life, and they appear on the island. But if you're watching the show for a detailed explanation of what they mean, you'll be disappointed by the end of the show. So I don't know. I just thought that was the way he described that was interesting.
Yeah. That is so indicative of the whole show, honestly.
Yeah, isn't it?
If you are looking at this whole show with a microscope and wanting a detailed explanation for every weird thing that they do, you will be disappointed at the end. Like, I don't see how you could possibly not be.
Yeah, and those are all the people who I feel like stopped watching the show after a couple of seasons because they weren't getting those answers. Yeah. But he's right when he says if they had had an episode like in season 2 or 3, it said, here's what the numbers mean. Like, it would have been done. It wouldn't have been interesting. It wouldn't have been engaging. No one would have cared anymore.
Exactly.
So
there's no power in doing that. I mean, that's why you like watching these characters struggle to learn these lessons, because if they just did right away, what would be the point?
Right. Exactly. So yeah, I feel like that was just a good reminder of, you know, even though Laws doesn't answer all of its questions, there's a good reason for it most of the time.
And the speculation is so much more fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the numbers. I have a black t-shirt that just has the numbers on it.
Oh, that's awesome. I want that shirt.
My mom gave it to me because she loves me. And my grandma gave me a Jack doll because she doesn't understand me.
Oh, that's right. Didn't you give that to me in college?
I did give it to you because I knew you'd appreciate it.
Oh.
I mean, if you left it with me, it would have turned into a voodoo doll or something.
Yeah, had to save it from whatever malice you were going to throw on it.
We won't even talk about the life-size Sawyer.
Let's never talk about that, okay? Let's never speak of it again. But yeah, that's this episode. I love this episode. Yeah.
It's a wonderful world-building episode. It really, really opens the door on a lot.
Yeah, and I love episodes like that, so.
Yeah, nobody's like crying or anything, so I guess that's why I'm not like super into it.
Jesus.
You know, I like the emotional gut punch.
Oh.
But hey, next week is Locke, so you know we'll get some.
Yeah, we definitely will. All right, that's going to do it for this week. If you'd like to connect with us more, you can follow us on Instagram at The Lost Podcasts, or you can check us out on Facebook or on our website, thelostpodcast.com. Tiffany is writing weekly polls on Instagram, so feel free to go over and participate in those.
Yes, do so.
Yeah, we love hearing from you guys.
You know, it's fun. It helps settle our debates.
Yeah. If you'd like to support the show, you can find us on Patreon, where you can pledge $1 a month or whatever you can afford.
We're very close to reaching our first goal, which is a Patreon-only bonus podcast episode. So, if enough people donate, I think we're only like $14 away from it. So, I mean, we can see how many of you guys are listening. It'd be pretty easy. If everybody sent $1 a month, we'd have buco bonus episodes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Randy and I are trying to think of a good topic for our bonus episode, but it won't be like based on like one of the episodes of the show like these are. It'll be something different, like maybe have a knockdown, drag out Jack versus Sawyer episode. That would be fun.
Yeah, everyone wants that, right? Just more debates on Jack and Sawyer.
More of the same. But no, we could talk about anything. We could talk about the music or, you know, there's so much to talk about and there's just not enough time to talk about everything in every episode. And we get real detailed.
Yeah, clearly.
So, yeah, be a Patreon supporter. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And thank you so much to the people who have already decided to do so. We don't take it lightly. It's really awesome that you are supporting us in every way.
Yes, we super, super duper appreciate it. And as always, you don't have to be a Patreon supporter, but like I said, we appreciate any support that we do get. Don't forget to join us next week for episode 19, Deus Ex Machina, which as we've already said, is all about Locke.
Yes, I love this episode.
I know you do.
I love Locke so much.
Yeah, it'll be a good discussion for sure.
Please don't ever make me choose between Locke and Sawyer. I don't know if I can do it.
Wow, that's high praise coming from you.
Does that surprise you?
It does, actually.
Oh my gosh. I adore Locke. Like, he's so much fun. And this episode is so intense, and I love intense.
I can't wait for the conversations we're going to have about Locke in the future. I can't wait.
Me too. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. I'm Randy.
And I'm Tiffany.
And this has been Freckles and Blondie. He comes across one of the he comes across, sorry. It's going to be one of those nights where I just do that a lot. So sorry for when you edit this. It's going to be a nightmare.